Hi, I'm Neil Druckmann, creative director of The Last of Us.
And I'm Ashley Johnson, and I play Ellie in The Last of Us. And you are watching Eurogamer.
I need something smuggled out of the city.
Just cargo, Joel.
Greetings gamers, Ian Higton from Eurogamer, back again, this time with an exclusive interview about The Last of Us. I caught up with the game's creative director Neil Druckmann and actress Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie, at a recent press event, and tried to prise some final bits of information from their mouths before the game's imminent release. So Neil, during a presentation you gave us, you guys coined a new gaming genre, survival action. Can you explain what that means in terms of how the game will actually play?
On the highest level, The Last of Us is the story of Joel and Ellie. These two survivors trying to make their way through a United States that has been ravaged for the past 20 years by this pandemic. And what we set out to do with Naughty Dog is really create a new gameplay genre. There's elements that we liked from survival horror, from survival stories, that we were really drawn to, that afford us really great opportunities to tell a very character-driven story. While at the same time, we come from a heritage of action-adventure games. And there's a lot of elements we wanted to draw from that, as far as, fluidity of mechanics and epic vistas and this seamless journey that has, no load times. So we really kind of combine these two elements, and we're calling it survival action.
Mandatory evacuation. Evacuate to where?
During the presentation, you put a lot of emphasis on the decision-making aspects of the game. However, this seemed to be solely focused on resource management and crafting choices. Will there also be choices which affect the game's narrative, maybe to give us some different paths through the game, or indeed different outcomes?
With The Last of Us, we're trying to tell a very specific story. It has a very specific beginning, middle, and end. There's something very... I'm using the word specific, but something very specific we're trying to say with it. So there's no branching storylines, but there is a lot of decision making in the moment to moment. Even when you're outside of combat, and it's like, are you going to take your time to go scavenge? Are you going to take your time to go exploring? And if you do that, there'll be narrative opportunities, which is something new to us at Naughty Dog. There's a lot of content, a lot of narrative content that we created that's optional. So there's a part in the game where Joel and Ellie get into kind of a verbal fight. And they're walking around with Bill. So there's constantly these three characters around having conversations. And if you go off the beaten path and you go explore and you enter this bedroom and you're by yourself as Joel, all of a sudden you'll turn around and you'll see Ellie's there and she's like, hey Joel, you have a second? I want to talk to you. And this icon will come up and you can choose whether you want to engage with Ellie and have that conversation or walk by her and Joel will say, not right now, Ellie, let's go find Bill. And we find that, even though there's a lot of content that can be missed by players, if they explore and if they find it, they become much more invested in it. And they find that their relationship grows more organically due to these kind of conversations.
Shit, here they come.
One thing that wasn't mentioned, and as far as I know hasn't been mentioned in any detail, is the multiplayer element of the game. Are you still keeping quiet about that?
Yes, we're right on the cusp of revealing it. The one thing I can say is, we've worked really hard. Our multiplayer team has worked really hard to retain the kind of tone and feel of the single player game. We felt that we've achieved something pretty unique with how the game flows in single player, how you strategize and craft, and you really get the sense of being a survivor. And they've worked really hard to kind of transfer that feeling over into multiplayer.
You've left it quite late in the game to talk about multiplayer. Why is that?
For the most part with this game, we've talked very little about it. We've tried to reveal as little as possible just to get enough marketing out there to, get some hype behind the game. But at the same time, I, as a player, find myself much more intrigued with an experience when I know very little about it. When I go into it almost blind. I like movies a lot of times when I haven't even seen the trailer for them. And for us, we really wanted to take the time to set up the world, to set up this is the kind of experience we want you to have before jumping into okay, well, here's this other experience that's on the disc. Because that tone is so important for us. The how we're approaching the material has been so important to us that it was we really wanted to establish that first and then show you multiplayer.
Fuck.
In my last preview video, a few of my viewers were showing concerns about Joel's listening abilities, saying that the fact you could effectively see enemies through walls would ruin the immersion and make the game too easy. Will there be a way to disable Joel's listening ability for those who want to go hardcore into The Last of Us?
So with the listen mode, which lets you kind of focus Joel's listening, and it's a way for us to visualize what he's hearing. We've seen a lot of players ask for an option to disable it, so we've added in the options menu in all difficulties you can disable listen mode. But also once you finish the game in any of the difficulties, you unlock survival, which is the hardest difficulty, and in that mode it's off by default. Like, you can't turn it on, it's always off.
One of the only interesting things to come out of the disappointing Xbox One presentation was the announcement of the Call of Duty dog, Colin. After all the interest in Colin, have you guys put any thought into any dog-based DLC for The Last of Us?
It's funny, when we first came up with the concept of the original pitch had a dog in it, and it's just one of those, it's probably the hardest thing that we had to cut pretty early on. We'll see. We've always talked about, it's like Naughty Dog, we need to make a game with an actual dog in it, but we'll see where we go from here.
And finally, when is The Last of Us available? Because a lot of my viewers want to play it right now.
The game will be available on disc at stores June 14th and digitally June 14th as well. Oh, and about our digital download, can I say a few things about that? It's available on day one. Our co-president, Christoph Balestra, a programmer, wrote the app to download it. You'll be able to play the game as it's downloading. And unlike usual games, when you download them on the PlayStation Network, you need double the space. You won't for The Last of Us. You need just the exact space that you need. And because we're using our own servers, it actually will download faster.
Thanks Neil, and thanks you guys for watching. Fret not though, as this isn't the last of our The Last of Us coverage. Make sure you click on that bottom annotation and give us a subscribe for more content coming soon, including an in-depth interview with Ashley about Ellie and some interactive live streams. That'll be jolly good fun.
Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.